One thing I wanted to do is introduce you both, but I also wanted to just speak the mantra Raj, Ugra Viram, because these two beautiful women will be talking about Shani Dev, who is one of the main karakas of fear. And Ugra Viram of Sri Narasimha Swami is said to remove all fear. It's actually the Devas went to Sri Vishnu for this. Fear of attachment to this world, fear of rebirth. There's many things to be afraid of. So I'll just speak it really quick. Okay. Om Aim Saraswati Namaha. Om Ganganapati Namaha. Om Ugram Bhiram Mahavishnu Jwalantam Sarvato Mukham Narasimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityum Namamyaham. And for those of you who don't know, there's also a Shri Shanisharaya Krita Narasimha Stotram. Shani spoke a Narasimha Stotram. A lot of people don't know that. So it's very appropriate. Okay, so, and it said to remove all the fears of his effects. And you can look that up. So is Jane Ann presenting first? Should I introduce them in tandem, Shanati ji?
Yes, and introduce them both now.
Okay. All right. So Jane Ann and Nandita are both dear students of mine, very sincere, very unique voices in Jyotish. I pray that everyone gives them their ear. And Jane Ann, when I met her, one of the first things I said to her is, "Why aren't you reading me?" That's one of the first things I said. You can ask her. I took one look at her chart and said, "Why aren't you reading me?" And it ended up being, she's a practicing with the beauty way, is that the Dene tradition through an authentic teacher for years, which people call shamanistic now. And one of the interesting things that got Jane Ann and I connected was that we were reading for similar groups of people in a certain area. And they kept saying we were saying the same thing. And she was actually reading through her intuitive gifts. I was reading through Jyotish. So I was like, I should meet this woman. you know, so she's extraordinarily talented. She studied with Sanjay Ji too. Andrew Foskey was both of our teachers actually. So I wanted to bow to that lineage as well. I call Sanjay Ji the king of Rashi Vidya. I have never met anyone in my life that possesses that seat the way he does with Rashis. So Jane Ann has definitely done well in that tradition as well. Um, Nandita is, has blown my mind. She's really grasped the mechanics of the nakshatra vidya that I have to offer. And I never like saying that because I still feel like a student, guys. It feels really weird to say that, but I have devoted my life to nakshatra vidya. And one thing I noticed about Nandita is she got the mechanical part of it so quickly and so clearly. And her passion as a teacher, I have only heard from students the best things. And that just gives me so much confidence in her and trust in her. Literally, when I first laid my eyes on her, I recognized her. And so she is just a gem in this world. And she's also studied with other teachers very, she has a longer history in Jyotish as well. So she's currently offering classes too and stuff like that. And I get behind my students. I would literally send people that want to study with me to her. That's how much confidence I have in her. So I'm putting her on the spot. Okay, guys, they're going to be presenting on removing fear related to Shani Dev. And they have two very unique, like I said, their voices are so unique, guys, that I just would love everyone to treat this as a satsang for our beloved Mahashani. Great, great, great graha, very, very high graha. Okay, so Om Sham Shani Sharaya Namaha. And I bow to my students as my teachers. May the Vidya in you always shine and outshine my own. Thank you.
So my attempt here is going to talk from the Shastras a little bit finer points about Shani that allow us to understand what Shani Dev is doing in our Kundalis, and in hopes to recognize that what we've been told, the fear, does not need to be there, and how we can actually help clients. Because if we understand him in the Kundali and his role that he's playing, getting us to the goal that beautifully that he allows us to obtain in Uttarabhadapada, as Jane Ann beautifully mentioned. So that's the purpose here. So we start with the beautiful story of Samudra Manthan, which a lot of us know. This story can be looked at in so many different ways, but before we get to the story and looking at it from, to understand it better so we can understand the charts, I just want to point out that this is actually quite a unique story. Oh, you know what I'm just realizing? Evgie, I think you're putting up a wrong one. I sent the wrong version. Do you have, oh boy. Evgie, can you hear me? No, I think you have the wrong version of my presentation. Sorry, guys.
Do you want to send me the right one?
Yeah, yes.
Classic Shani.
Yes, it's okay.
Everyone gets the opportunity to exercise patience.
Um, yes.
So stop just sharing the screen so I can grab it. If you just drop it to me, I stop share.
Okay, I just want.
Rita is worth the wait.
Sorry, guys.
If
It
she's
has been a challenge. Technology has eluded me today in many ways. Okay.
Asking us to slow down.
Yeah.
when
For
you
those.
when you approach these devatas, they approach you. Okay, so
Okay.
did you drop it to me?
Yes, I in the text with you, me, and Jane Ann.
I got it. I just got it. I'm going to delete the other one just so we don't have any problems.
Okay.
Okay, and then let me get that back up for us and share my screen.
Okay.
All of you supporting these two, I will never forget. Shanati has been generous in ways I can't explain. I don't want to put him on the spot, but there's a lot of my students that they've proven that just by paying something for something you value it. These students are in a Jyotish chat every day because I don't charge them, meaning they're dedicated. Some of them are students, some of them just can't, at the moment afford the beauty of something like this. And Shanati has so generously let them in. So please, this is the Shani, the Seva. Can we just please take a moment with his generosity? I'm going to lose it in this talk, so I'm going to shut up. So let me, okay. Will never forget Shanati. I won't
My pleasure.
never forget that.
We're such
I'm
a
not kidding.
family here. We're all a family.
I will never forget that. Okay, so I will mute.
Thank you. Yes, I made some changes. So going back, before we talk about the Samudra Manthan, I wanted to point out the uniqueness of Kurma Avatar and the Kurma Purana. Um, as we know, this is all the stories. Different avatars have their own Puranas, and they're all stemming from the avatars of Mahavishnu. So it's very Vaishnava text, right? But Kurma Avatar is narrated by Shiva, which is unique. I mean, he has a lot of his other Puranas about Shiva, but that where he narrates, but for this, it's unique because it is a Vaishnava text, which is narrated by Shiva. And it kind of speaks to a whole different level of their uh, how they feel about each other, but we won't go there right now. But the importance here is that what we heard Jane Ann mention many times, that Shani is managing our pranas. He represents our pranas. He's Ayush. He's looking out. He's responsible for our lifespan. So this text, Kurma Purana, has a Gita which is called Ishvara Gita, and it really, really focuses on the knowledge of the Atman and yoga and meditation and liberation. This story, when we in a moment pick it apart, you realize it's so yogic and it's so fitting for Shani, being the Vayu Tattva, right? Being responsible for our lifespan. He is the natural karka of the eighth house. Again, that shows our lifespan. How long? It shows just how things are going to be present in our life throughout the life that we live, right? So we'll look at that when we talk more about the eighth house. But now let's go look at the story. For those of you who don't know the story, very briefly, before we look at the symbolism, the Samudra Manthan is a story that comes about when starts with the curse of Rishi Durvas on Indra. He curses Indra for being disrespectful for the gift that he had received from Rishi Durvas. Short story, to make a long story short, Indra was losing, and the Devas were losing all their vitality. They run to Vishnu as usual. Sri Vishnu gives them a solution, and it's not an easy solution. Indra has to work with the Asuras because churning of the ocean is not an easy task. So when we talk about the story, both the parties are working together to bring up the Amrit that's at the bottom. And we're going to look at what some of these things mean when we look at the story in a more deeper level. I mean, Jane Ann has done such a wonderful job where we can understand the yonis, and so we can understand the nakshatras better. But the story is profound. So let's go look at the story. Okay, what some of these things represent. So this is my attempt to kind of help us understand deeply the symbolism of the story. Even just the title, Samudra Manthan. What are they really talking about? When the rishis, or when the story was written, right? Samudra Manthan is talking about our consciousness, our mind. What we are experiencing, the churn, that is what is being churned within us at certain parts of our life. Okay, Sri Kurma, Mahavishnu's avatar, foundation, the turtle, creating that foundation for the churning to happen in the story. But for that's our Muladhara chakra, the Kundalini Shakti that we all have. And that's really the Mukhya Prana. Again, connecting it to Shani. This is, after all, Shani's story, and he is in charge of Vayu Tattva. That is our effort. When a yogi works with the pranas, moving that prana up the channel. So the Mandara mountain in the story, beautifully, Shri Vishnu suggests that to churn the ocean, they must use a mountain. What is this mountain? It's our spine, the central channel, the Sushumna. The yogi is constantly trying to push that Mukhya Prana up the channel. The Vasuki, the rope, it's our Ida and the Pingala nadis, the breath that we are utilizing when we do our Kriya practices. The Devas are on one end, the Asuras are on the other end. The Devas, they're on the tail of Vasuki, and that is representing the Ida nadi within us. How we connect to that. And that's usually a very cooling, it's magnetic. Devas don't need to work at attracting things to us. They're magnetic. They're creating that energy that bring things to us, to them. Whereas the Asuras, okay, or they are on the head of Vasuki, where the poison comes out. And that represents the Pingala nadi. And we compare that to the more of the solar energy, which is hot. It's electric. They have a lot of energy. They're very, very ambitious, assertive. They have and they can do enormous amount of tapasya, and that's why they get so strong. And we find that within ourselves too, right? We are kind of both. We're devas and asuras. We live somewhere in between, and we try to manage that. We try to manage that energy within us. And the halahal that comes out in the story, the poison, the first thing that comes out before you get to the stuff that feels good, that gives us a little bit, that gives us what we need, the poison comes out. And what is that? That is us churning our mind, our karmas that we've collected. We're dealing with that at that moment. And Mahadev has mercy on us, and he drinks that poison, and this is where he gets his name Nilkant. And that's deep. Because in one way, Mahadev shows us he's given us this knowledge. He's given us the ability where we can learn through him to be in control. And then eventually, when we process that, when we learn to balance that, the siddhis come out. And on a yogic path, those are different abilities on the spiritual path. Whatever you may that be for a person, okay? So those are all the different things, abilities, you can call them, siddhis, you can call them, whatever that is for each person. And at the very end, after all the different beautiful things that come out, in the story it goes into a lot of gifts that come out. In the elephant comes out, Kamdenu comes out. Okay, a lot of beautiful things come out of the ocean, but at the very last, and as Jane Ann pointed out, Lakshmi coming out, And this is a beautiful point that she made. And here we also see that, she was not confused about who to go to. Everybody who was there wanted Lakshmi to come to them. The rishis wanted her. Indra wanted her. Everyone, the Asuras, everyone. But there was no question in her mind. There was no doubt. She goes straight to the heart of Sri Vishnu. And that is a very important point that the rishis are trying to tell us, that she knows where to put her devotion. She has the wisdom. She knows where she will be respected and held in equal devotion as she has for Sri Vishnu. And that, when we look at Uttarabhadapada and when we take this journey through the nakshatras, you'll realize how important that is. And in the story, the Amrit comes out, which is, to me, the story says immortality. Yes, but what gives us the immortality? For us, it's the knowledge of self-realization that allows us to remember that this is just what we're wearing temporarily, that we are eternal. We realize our connection to where we came from. So even this is where Sri Yamraj tells Nachiketas, who went there to ask Yama, what comes after death? And this is where he shares that story. So it's beautiful, the whole story. And at the very, very end, the goal, the freedom comes when they talk about Sri Vishnu turning into the eagle and flying to the top. And for a yogi, that's the Sahasra. That's when you're free. You know that you're not bounded, that you're everlasting. So the story of Shani, not only is it beautiful from just simply looking at from the perspective of just storytelling, but profound in the sense when we realize that he is Vayu Tattva and his story is so yogic. This is the journey of a yogi, finding that freedom that he's trying to give us. And that is beautiful about Shani. Shani is trying to give us the freedom. And so as we go through the slides, I will attempt to make those points. But before we get into the nakshatras, I wanted to bring out a few other things about Shani and his connection to Shiva and time. So if we could go to the next slide. So Shani Graha, all the Grahas have their own stories. And we all know he's the son of Surya. Surya has many kids. Shani Dev, he does this tremendous tapasya. And it's a funny story because he stems from just trying to prove himself, that he's just as good as his siblings. It's a funny story, and it is a story. However, he does a tapasya that is so profound. He doesn't just honor just one of the three murtis. He does the tapasya to all three of the three murtis. And they are so impressed that Shiva gives him a boon. And this boon, we need to understand a little bit deeply. Shiva gives him the boon to be karma adhikari. That means he can and is given the authority over all the grahas, over our entire kundli, and be responsible for allocating the appropriate karma, whether that karma is good or bad. And that's another important thing to realize here, because I think we just, and I know we don't, but when we hear the word karma, there's that initial kind of reaction like, ooh, but it can be good and it can be not so good, okay? But he has been given that authority, which is huge. And he's witnessing. He's watching, he's witnessing, and that's all he's doing. He's not judging, he's just witnessing. Okay, and we're going to talk about how he's connected to time, because time is witnessed. We are being witnessed. And in this story, in the story of Kumapuran, there was another thing that I wanted to point out here, is that Brahma does ask Sri Lakshmi, and in the Kumapuran, Sri Lakshmi is like the Mahamaya, okay, and she's shown that way there, and so that means that she is absolutely responsible for the Maya of this world that we live in, and Brahma asks her to a very important thing, which is kind of something we need to pay attention to, because he asked her to keep people further deluded in the Maya if they were not living a righteous, proper, virtuous life following Dharma. And that is kind of scary in a way, because she's going to keep us further deluded. So if we put this together with even what Jane Ann said through these stories of the yonis and the vahanas, and the points that she made, is that we're trying to break out of the illusion, and and Burma is literally telling her that for people who are not following the path, or not following the virtuous path, to keep them further deluded. So we have to understand the weight of this and the directions that Shani Dev has been given by Shiva and the Trimurti, and what Brahma is asking Sri Lakshmi to do. So very important point here, and also important to understand, where is Shani getting that authority, and what does that mean for us who are trying to figure out, right? And trying to figure out how we can overcome, and release and be free of our karmic burden. And that's why we find Shani's nakshatra where they're placed. And so we'll understand that in a minute. One more additional point before we actually even look at those things. So Shani, it's time to connection. Connection to time. Sorry, my dyslexia. Now it's going on to the words now. Can I have the next slide? Okay, so Shani Dev's connection to Mahakal. We kind of understand that he's Ayush Karka. He is in charge of, our lifespan. But in the Shastras, to understand it further, where is this connection being made? So there are two particular stotrams that we look at, which directly connects him to time. So there is Shani Mahakal Mrityunjaya Stotra, which is a beautiful stotra. It addresses and praises Shiva through all the limbs of the body and nakshatras and the days of the week. It's just beautiful. I was reading it, and it's so beautifully praising Shiva. But this story, the stotram also explains that Shiva goes into all the detail. When Devi Parvati is asking Shiva a specific question, like what form of Shiva grants long life? And just that And his answer was this stotram, which is beautiful, connects Shani directly to Ayush, because he's saying Shani's is time. There are phrases in there that connect Shani directly to time. And there's another stotram by King Dashratha. This is during well, let me just say that in this stotram, King Dashratha is pleading to Shanidev to change his course, his transit, because he's trying to avoid destruction of all the three worlds. And this is, you'll find this in greater detail in Padma Puran, but this is King Dashrath having the compassion to ask Shanidev, and in the story it's quite beautiful. He gathers up all his courage, even when everyone says you can't go up against Shanidev. He goes and he stands in front of Shanidev, and Shanidev is like, please get out of my way. It's not good. You're standing in my way. Like, there's no match here. And King Dashrath stands in front of him and says, I know, but I have to stand in front of him because I'm worried about my people. And Shanidev finds that so, he's touched by that. He's touched by that, that he was totally didn't worry about, the King Dashrath did not worry about himself, but he put himself in front, not for his people. Sorry, guys, getting a little Brahma here. But anyhow, King Dashrath also asked Shanidev in this stotram. He's asking Shanidev to release all the karmas that are related to the second house that we have in our chart, the sixth house that we have in our chart, the 12th house we have in our chart. And these places are important to understand because second house is the seat of our desires. All our indriyas are there. All the consumptions of our, consumption that we're doing through our mouth, not just our mouth, but everything else. So that is considered the seat of our desires. And unknowingly, because of our desires, we create a lot of karma. Sixth house, where we say it's our free will. It's how we're acting on a daily basis, what we're doing, and our response to what we're dealing with in life. Okay, it's a choice, right? It's our free will, how we respond. So again, knowingly or unknowingly, we're creating karmas there too. And 12th house, the seat of avoidance, when we don't want to deal with it. We want to escape from all of it. So these are the places of karma, and King Dashrath asked Shanidev to release us from all the karmas related to the second, the sixth, and the 12th house. So again, pointing out some other things that even in our Kundalini, when we look at all the Rashis, right, we know that we have a limited amount of heartbeats. And when we look at the Rashis, when we look at Cancer, where our heart is, right, directly opposite that is Capricorn, ruled by Shanidev. And in Capricorn, we find Dhanishta. And one of the symbols for Dhanishta is the Damaru, Shiva's Damaru, right? The resonance of our heart. We find that in Dhanishta, right? Where Pushya, not to get confused, where our heart is, the actual organ. But this heartbeat that you find, the sound of the heartbeat that you find in Dhanishta, again, tying directly to Shani and Ayush Karka, right? He's aware. He's in charge of it, so he has to be aware of it, right? Again, these are points that Jainan has made again and again. He's a carrier of our Vayu Tattva, He's the Karka of the 8th house, which is the Ayush Bhava. So both of these stotrams, along with what we find in our kundalis, the way the rashis are placed, the nakshatras are placed, we tie him to time and to Shiva and to Mahakal. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so the moksha bhavas and the jala tattva become important. Why? Why are we talking about them? Well, that's where we find Shani's nakshatras. And Shani's nakshatras are trying to free us from our karmas, right? So we need to understand what Jala Tattva is, okay? And how that is supporting the Moksha Bhavas and Shani's Nakshatras, the overall goal. So these places in our chart, which is the 4th house, the 8th house, the 12th house, when we look at the natural Kundali, right? We find that this is a place that governs where you put your devotion. Whether it's whatever you're focused on, wherever your devotion is in the outside world or in the inside world. Jane Ann talked a lot about devotion. So this is where we're finding that. This is what's supporting that. This is a place where we need to be a little bit more discerning, a little bit, where is our pranas going, right? And this word ras, because that is how you're experiencing Jala Tattva. The experience is through ras. And so what is ras? We're simply looking at it. Ras means joy or bliss, pure bliss. So in our outward world, it could be just, you can experience that from eating a chocolate, eating an ice cream, something, and you get lost in that moment where you are just, feeling the happiness, the fulfillment of that taste. Or you can feel it at a very divine level, like the gopis did in Ras Leela, through their devotion to Krishna. Completely, utterly surrendered to his love. So the moksha houses, think about what they're capable of giving us. Yes, our daily fulfillment of things that we enjoy, but at the height of it, they are actually giving us the one thing that takes probably for most of us a whole lifetime to realize, like that longing to be in union with God. So when we try to talk about Jala Tattva, moksha houses, we need to really, really pay attention to what that means. And since we are consuming these experiences, the discernment has to be there, because the consumption means that we're going to have to digest it, whatever that is. And if it's not good, it will be painful. And because digestion means it has to go through our body, and this experience will have a huge impact on us. Huge impact. If it's a good impact, then it's beautiful. But if it's not good, then we know how that feels, right? Because these bonds, because Shani Dev's nakshatras are in the heart of all these moksha trines, Shani is going to just have things prolong. They're long lasting. So we want that experience to be good and not something uncomfortable that we're dealing with. They're long lasting because Shani's presence is there. Shani's nakshatras are there. So the bonds that we have in our life, the attachments in our life that we have, there has to be They have to be properly placed. Okay. So this is the perfect place for the Samudra Manthan. I mean, it's a turning of the ocean, right? It's happening in water, in Jala. So it's an interesting place for this story to fit in all of these moksha bhavas, because that is where we're turning. That is where we are looking, and things are coming up, and we're addressing those things. Like, again, you know, the overcoming of those things that are coming up. Make us realize and adjust as we go through the 3 nakshatras, adjust our devotion so we can finally reach the goal and have the understanding that Sri Lakshmi did, right? The wisdom. It's a process, it's a journey. Every day we're doing this in some aspect of our life, right? And beautifully, the Sampat Nakshatra to Shani Nakshatras, okay, the next one is all the Budh Nakshatras, right? Budh, Jainan said, trying to answer that question, who am I, right? But Budh allows us to get rid of things that are not good for us, because he marks the ending of that. So the ending brings us that freedom. Us recognizing what's good, getting rid of it, starting a new cycle, whether it's cycle within our life, which we experience through the different Gandhantas as we go through the Kundali, right? Through the phases, or total freedom at the end. The last Gandhanta, Brevati, get me out, done. Because we understood, right? So moksha bhavas, jala tattva, pivotal for this whole process. And they're all connected. Shani, all of it. Because it's the entire thing. It's our environment where this Samudra Manthan is actually happening for us. So we'll go look at the nakshatras. So Pushya, the first Shani nakshatra in Cancer, where our mind is, our psychology is, Sukha Bhava. Interesting. This Pushya's very interesting because it's ruled, well, the graha that it falls under is Guru. I'm sorry, in Shani, and the Devata is Guru, Brahaspati. And when we start our journey in Pushya, because it's Cancer, so much to do with our happiness. We say it's our home, it's our comfort. What does that mean, right? What is our happiness? What do you qualify as happiness? So it's important to understand that. It's referred to as our Sukha Bhava, the place of happiness, but it is the seat of our mind. Pushya is the seat of our mind. It's our most private, intimate space that we find in our mind and in our heart. It's very personal. It's our personal environment. Our home is personal. Whereas directly opposite of Cancer in the 10th house, it's not so personal. It's completely out there, right? This is the midnight point. So this is very intimate, and it represents our psychology, our thoughts. It's the environment that we live in. And here in the 4th house, both Guru and Shani are present. The wisdom of Guru is absolutely necessary. He ushers us into the moksha bhavas, right? Guru nakshatras, last pada comes into moksha bhava. And that is something to think about. We need to, we're approaching this with some wisdom because we need to stabilize our mind. Why? Because we need to feel the happiness. We need the fulfillment that we get when our mind is stable, right? The qualification of what is happiness needs to be pondered upon, because in Pushya, the presence of Brahaspati is important to understand, because the happiness is really comes from the inside, the fulfillment from our heart, as opposed to all the things that we are trying to acquire from the external world. Because when we're happy, it shows in our environment. We create a happier environment. The joy that we feel inside becomes kind of displayed in our outer world. And we share that with people we're around. We share that as a profession. You'll find a lot of actors, people who do a lot of display that emotion in an outwardly fashion through their professions. Actors, musicians, a lot. You'll find that as you study. So this is the place where we are going inward, withdrawing from the outside world, so we can do our seva in the outside world. What happens when we don't? Because this is so hard. This is so hard to do. A lot of us, all of us, at some point, have not recognized the importance of this point that Guru and Shanidev are trying to let us know what we need to do here. When we don't withdraw, and when we just insatiably try to feel happy from the external stimulation, this creates a situation where Shanidev has the perfect opportunity to exhaust us. And that's where we experience the churn. The churn is not comfortable. The poison is coming out first. We need to process that. That's not a comfortable feeling. So we feel it. And this is where perhaps maybe we feel, oh, when I'm dealing with certain things in the chart that are stimulated by Shani, that is uncomfortable. And so we blame him. And we say, oh, Shani's this, Shani's that, this is not a good experience, sati sati, all that stuff. But what's really, really, truly happening behind the scenes is it's trying to get you to be happy by looking at the proper things. Where is your devotion? Where is that going? What are you focusing on? He's asking you to go inward. Rest. Let Brahaspati help you. Know yourself. Stabilize your mind. Rest your mind. So you can experience the joy, the bliss that you're looking for. Because it's within us. So Pushya is beautiful. Yeah. I mean, just like what Jane Ann said, that it's sort of like there are no, there is no milk. Goat doesn't give milk. Where is the milk? We're in search of milk. We start our journey. We're searching for milk now. Okay? We're searching for milk. Only to find out that as we go through this process, the milk is within us. Okay, so let's go to Anuradha. Anuradha, Mitra. The friend. The friend who's shaking his head as we experience our life as a dumpster fire, who's shaking his head saying, oh my God, I saw this coming. That's exactly what's happening in Anuradha. Anuradha, Mitra, the Devata, he understands consequences of our actions. Everything that we've done, the overconsumption through the second house, all the indulgent choices we've made thus far is felt in Anuradha. Anuradha, Mitra, the friend, is looking at us and just he's scared for us. Okay. Anuradha, as we experience Anuradha, I should say, okay, becomes the diplomat, the negotiator, trying to mitigate all kinds of possible damages that now it's burdened with all the responsibilities that have come about from all the choices that they've made. Okay, and we commonly say Anuradha is, right? It's in the eighth house of in-laws. Well, what happened? The will, relationship, marriage, children, eighth house, family to take care of. Responsibilities, all the responsibilities that came about from our personal choices or whatever we've made, decisions that we've made. Right? And interestingly enough, this is kind of gross, but this is, the eighth house. What we ate must come out. What we ate in the second house has to come out, right? Even in our body. This is where we find the colon. Attempting to get rid of the damage. Dispel the damage, right? Attempting that. This is where we find long-term diseases, life-altering consequences, all the eighth house stuff, right? Keyword, over a long period of time. Shani, right? So here in Anuradha, we need to be not scared to let go of some of the things. We need to kind of face that. Okay, so all the juggling, the firefighting, the crisis management that Anuradha does, and it's meant to happen here. So you get exhausted to the point where you just crave rest. You're like, oh my God, I can't do it anymore. This is too much. And you desire the freedom. You want it so bad. You're so exhausted that you finally come to the realization that I just have to be strong and I have to have the courage to kind of just let go of whatever and make the difficult decisions that we make in our life and become fearless and just let it go. This is where we're scared because we directly kind of hold accountable for we see the decisions that we made and we see what it has done. We may feel guilty, we may feel regret, we're scared because we're faced with that. The eighth house is a seat of fear. Shani is the Lord of caution. All the Chayagrahas can create fears in our mind. So this is where we're finding Anuradha. It's beautiful, but it goes through this process. It allows us to let go. And once we let go, Jeshta, which is, by the way, the anus, removes the waste and can do its job. But if we hold on to this, we literally get the stomach ache, right? Because if we can't let go, we don't have our emotions, we're going to have a problem, right? So anyway, I'm trying to make things funny here. So naturally, Jyeshta, Mercury Nakshatra, ending of cycles, another Gandanta point, once again being, free, free. So next nakshatra is Uttarabhadrapada, Ahirabhunya. We call him the deep serpent of the ocean. He's also one of the 11 Rudras. This presence of Shiva here, very much. Also associated with Anantasesha, right? We've seen pictures. He's creating that stability of the earth. The earth is on top of his hood, right? And you can find more information on him with the Ahirabhunya Samhita, okay? And talks a lot about the Sudarshan Chakra, which at the end of the Yuga, right, destroys everything. So, but Uttarabhadrapada, for us, what are we dealing with in our personal life? What is that? What is our journey, right? So the best way to understand also, like another good point is, Uttarabhadrapada, people always say Pisces, moksha, liberation, Pisces is a feet, all that. But Uttarabhadrapada, what is that? What part of the feet is that? That's the arch. That's the arch, which allows us to distribute our weight, which allows us to maintain our balance, our stability. And it absorbs the shocks that our body might feel or from the ground, right? And that's just like Anantasesha supporting the earth on his head, right? So good way to understand these nakshatras. Thank you for E.G. who finally got through my thick head. She said, go look at the body parts. And that finally sunk in because they are confusing. So you might find that helpful as well. Please try to do that. And the other beautiful point, this is where it's the last nakshatra of Shani. And this is where Lakshmi does come out. It's a Janma nakshatra of Sri Lakshmi. And when we see her pictures, she's at the end of Sri Vishnu's feet. She's in devotion to him all the time. She embodies proper devotion. Devotion to the one who does not want anything from anyone, who merely has enough compassion to come again and again and again to make our world better. So this is the self-knowledge we want. This is the journey that we're trying to take. This is where we want to be in Uttarabhadrapada with the self-knowledge, the wisdom that when we come out, that we make the right choice. Our devotion, where we put our pranas, this is it. This is the test, because the choice that we make here leads us to the goal that we all want. And an unintelligent choice can lead to long-term regret, bondage. Right? No distraction for her. Not Indra, not the other devatas, not the rishis who have all this tremendous amount of knowledge. No. She skips all of them straight into Sri Vishnu's heart. So that's what we're seeking. We want that. We want that certainty. How do we get that certainty? By knowing us, right? The next nakshatra, because it's the choice here makes a difference. This choice is very important, right? Because this is going to either, Revati's next. Where are you going? Prashant's gonna be like, where are you going? Am I taking you out? Okay, totally free? Because he's a transport nakshatra, right? Where are we going? To the next loka, right? So the jiva needs to know at this point, what is the next phase? The right choice, right? Because either you're going to be plugged back in through the Ashwins into Barney, or you have your freedom. You're done, right? And since there's another deeper point beyond us, our lives and how we're navigating through our lives, Shani, he is time. And we talked a little bit about this connection with Anantasesha, right? And even though we think that devas are immortal, even they have a time. Everything, they're governed by time. Anantasesha, who's supporting the world and the stability of our world, is also working with this whole time thing and ending the yugas at the end, right? So Shani being time, that whole concept is also applied to the time of the yugas, the span of the yugas. And each avatar, when Sri Vishnu comes, right, he's always coming and he's ending a yuga, right? We know that when he comes in the times of like Ramayana, Mahabharata, even when Narsimha Avatar came, there's a lot of adharma. Dharma is off balance. We know that the avatars come to get us back on track. There has to be there needs to be a balance. There's the order of the cosmic law. So this here in Uttarabhadapada, because it is the end, also marks that time, the end of the yugas. So Uttarabhadapada is very much connected to this as well. So we need to kind of keep that in mind when we look at this as, the different aspects of these nakshatras, right? A lot of the other two are a little bit more personal. This one is personal as well as marking this end of time, pralaya, when everything is wiped out. So I have few examples that we're going to go into, but does anybody have any questions up to this point? I have not been checking the chat, guys, okay? I can't do two things at one time. And I didn't want to get defocused. But if not, I have 3 examples that have Shani nakshatras. And I've taken the opportunity to kind of go a little bit into this vidya that has somehow stemmed from this beautiful man here, Bauji, who Evji served for a long time. And he asked her to focus on Jyotish. And I'm so grateful because of his ask, Evji has been practicing and teaching Jyotish to us. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for that, to have the opportunity to learn this the right way, because I have spent time before learning it this way with other practices and other people, and for some reason I did not have the clarity that I needed to feel confident. And when I heard what Evji had to teach, this nakshatra based astrology, it really came into my heart right away, and I'm so grateful. So I want to start by saying thank you and honoring Bauji. He was a a member of Meher Baba's Mandali, and his life is totally devoted to Meher Baba. And it's I think when I talk, he wanted me to talk about his chart. So I'm gonna show you his chart and just pick out a few things. I think that he really wanted us to focus on this technique and show you guys how it's the simplicity without the confusion. The accuracy is profound. So this is Bauji's chart. And up here, just to orient yourself, I just want to kind of explain. The top left is the Lagna chart. The top right is the Navamsha. And the bottom right and left, I have two different dashas. So I wanted to look at the time a couple of times in his life, like for instance, when he met Baba, and when Baba passed, and the responsibilities he had. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. But just I wanted to point out first, looking at his chart on the top left, a few things. He has a Shani Nakshatra. Saturn himself is sitting in Anuradha. When we look at the Navamsha, I just wanted to point out a few basic things here. That Shani is Ucha in the Navamsha, in the Libra Navamsha, Tula Navamsha, and it's in the seventh bhava. So it's a beautiful Shani that he has. And you're going to see that come out so strongly in his chart. I just need a minute. Okay. Rahu Dasha. Okay. Looking at a time during Rahu Dasha, that Rahu puts, from looking from the perspective of Rahu Dasha, as we do in this particular method, making Rahu the Lagna, the temporary Chandra Lagna. He's going to have control of what is happening during that time frame of Rahu. So here we find that from Rahu's perspective, Jupiter is landing in the ninth house, and Shani is going into the sixth house, one of the karkas, right, of the sixth house. Seva and victory. There's so many karkas of the sixth house. Sixth house is another house that is so misunderstood, right? And he used to always, well, I'll explain that in a minute, but this is a beautiful example because how he is using his discernment and how and where his devotion is landing. And that's why I want to point this out, that during Rahu, this beautiful Shani that he has, there's no doubt, during Rahu Jupiter, when he meets Baba, okay, just from technique point, okay, Jupiter is in the ninth house of Guru. Just technology, just the way this works. It's so simple to see. But during Rahu and Shani, when that Shani is actually awake in the sixth house, okay, this is a perfect example of his devotion, the proper placed devotion, where he spends. He permanently joins Baba to become one of the youngest Mandali members. He leaves behind everything. Now, if you knew this man, his life before, he comes from a royal family. He's actually brilliant intellectually. He had 3 different degrees, came from wealth, all this, had a family, okay? Had a family. But the profound effect he had when he met Baba was so special. It's like Lakshmi. He knew. He knew. There was no distractions. There's nothing. He knew. He knew. And it's beautiful because his devotion was so pure. And for those of you who know Baba, I mean, he was considered like, a lot of people compared him to the Avatar. And Bauji was like Lakshmi, that pure devotion. So this, his leaving behind everything, having his devotion in a proper place, was a beautiful example. If and you can study his life to see how that worked out for him. And it's Shani. And I want to point out some few other ways of looking at and using this technique. We look at the Navamsha for the Trimurti activity. And Shani is part of Vishnu Trimurti. So this devotion, I mean, he spent the rest of his life serving Baba and Baba's organization. Rest of his life. Long lasting, long lasting. Shani is not only a Vishnu Trimurti Graha, but it also lands in, he's sitting in the nakshatra of Shani. So naturally he's going to land in the Navamsha in Vishnu Trimurti. So I would take your time in understanding some of this, how the technique is working. I've tried to highlight a few things here, but this might help, okay? Oh, one more thing. Sorry, the Jupiter Dasha. I want to point out something here. The other response, the other thing that was playing out. I'm trying to show you some of the things that we experience in Anuradha, because he has Anuradha. So in Jupiter Dasha, in Shani Antardasha, okay, but specifically, you know, as he goes into this Jupiter Dasha, soon after Jupiter Dasha, you know, he loses Baba. And in Shani Antardasha, one of the first few Antardashas that he approaches, you know, he ends up having a tremendous amount of responsibility. You see that Shani in Anuradha, that speaks to the responsibility. He was given all the responsibility of Baba's trust and managing that. He was a trustee first, and then he became, you know, the person to manage the trust. And you see, one of the things that you'll see when if you ever learn this technique is, you know, where the moon goes. Evji pointed out that that third house can be brutal. It's difficult when we look at it from the dasha, right? And look at his psychology, the heartbreak, what he must have felt losing Baba, his beloved. You know, that Shani is just the patience, the humility, the forbearance. I mean, when you read his stories, you will realize this man, I mean, the forbearance of like the pain that, because he had a lot of health problems towards the end. And, you know, I can't say enough. There are beautiful stories. Evji has witnessed all of that because she took care of him for a long time. So I just wanted to honor Bauji because what I know today comes from him through Evji and her devotion to Bauji, really. So thank you, both of you, Bauji. I know you're here with us, and Evji, for spending hours trying to get through my thick head. So, okay. The next
Nandita, just a little bit of a warning. We're about 10 minutes over. I can let you go another 5, 6 minutes, maybe.
Okay, okay. So I don't want to rush through this, but guys, this Tina Turner is a perfect example. There are a lot of things that we can point out through because of her journey, because a true Anuradha, a lot of qualities do come out in her life. But the thing that I pointed out here, for the sake of you understanding the technique, was during this time of Rahu Shani. And really quickly, okay? Notice how Mercury and Surya are sitting in Anuradha in the natural fifth. Okay, I'm trying to point that out. Natural fifth, but it is her Scorpio where we find responsibilities. Okay, from the perspective of the Lagna, Jupiter is sitting in a Shani Nakshatra in the ninth house. Okay, I want to point this out because I want you to, I'm taking you somewhere. She has two nakshatras that are hemmed. Jeshta, meaning when we say hemmed, that means in the sequence of nakshatra, one is being skipped. Same thing here. Purabhadrapada is being hemmed. What I'm trying to show you here is that during Rahu and Shani, her Rahu, when we look at it from the perspective of the Rahu Dasha, she is what Ivji said, she's being fed responsibilities, right? Of what? Responsibilities of what? What is the promise of this Mercury and Sun? Well, looking back at the Lagna, it's of the fifth house, okay? Is of the fifth house. Rahu also wakes up Mangal, which goes into the fifth house. So there's congruent factors building up. That's what I wanted to walk you down. Mangal is the Charakarka, which is the Matrukarka. Rahu has the original promise of the fourth house, motherhood. Okay, we're trying to put this together. So when we use this technique, you will see clearly during this time she has children. Shani Antardasha wakes up Mercury and Surya in the second house of responsibility, family. Okay, Jupiter, the natural karka of children. Okay, being both of these grahas are not only awake, but they are hemming in Purabhadrapada, which is a Jupiter nakshatra, and Jupiter is a Brahma Trimurti planet. So naturally, Jupiter nakshatra is Brahma Trimurti. Okay, and Brahma wants what? Create extension of lineage, all of those themes, keep it going. He wants to sustain his creation, right? And what does that mean for us? Children, right? We're maintaining the lineage. So I wanted to break this down for you, and I'm rushing, but please take some time and just look at this. And here in the D9, look how many congruent factors. Jupiter is landing. Jupiter is, by the way, the Putra Karka, okay, landing in Leo Navamsha, right? Leo Navamsha. So look at all of the congruent factors that just point to the Phalita of children. Okay. So this one, so the next example, of course, I'm rushing through it. I don't know, we might have a minute or two, but are there any questions? Because you can also, I've written it all down here, and you can certainly look at it. But here, just really quickly, what I want to point out that how psychological is this chart? Like, meaning how much Jala is present in this chart. This is Heath Ledger. A lot of you know his story. Psych quadrant, what Evgie spoke about, yes, when she spoke. Psych quadrant, right? This is this part of the chart. You've got Moon in the heart of the psych quadrant, right? Moon is very psychological for us. Jupiter also, we just realized what what Jupiter can offer, and it's in Pushya, right? And what we understood what Pushya is all about, right? You've got Jupiter sitting in Pushya. He has a perfect Shani trine, meaning he has something in all Shani nakshatras. His Aruda is in Anuradha. He's got Mangal, okay? He's got a heavy Pisces. This is all the subconscious mind, okay? Venus, the other graha, which is psychological also, okay, is sitting in the 12th. So adding more to the psychology, adding more to the psychology. So, and Anuradha here, right? Forgot to mention this whole Mitra Varuna thing. You know, have you ever tried to find a picture of Mitra? They don't exist because every picture you find, they're both together, right? Why? They're paired. Mitra is witnessing what is going to actually the consequences that are going to come out in Shalabhashak. There's a big tie there. You should kind of look at it. It is the Jala Tattva, right? So it's the consequences that are going to be on display. So this is a very good chart to even look at it from the looking at the different Jala tattvas or the Kama tattvas or whatever. But a very, it's like a very sad story actually. But it is a good way of looking at what is happening. So particularly in his Shani Ketu, when we look at it from Shani, it wakes up his Moksha trine, right? This whole cluster is going into the 8th house. The Aruda is being challenged, you know, in the 8th house. Jupiter is going into the 12th, right? But, you know, normally we would say, wow, that's a beautiful Ucha Jupiter. Why wouldn't it help? This is great. We have Jupiter, the guy who's going to fix our psychology in Cancer. But what is actually happening? This is a deeply exalted Jupiter. If you don't, I mean, I'm sure you know, and those of you who don't know, he had a lot of trouble with his psychology. He was in a constant state of anxiety, insomnia, depression. You know, when this incident happened where he accidentally overdosed during this time, there was a lot going on, even in his personal life. It is Shani Dasha Shani Dasha he's running, and Shani creates that longing, right? That longing for what? To be in union, right? Personally, he was in America. He's from Australia. He was missing his daughter. He was missing home. He had just broken up with his girlfriend. The state of mind, I'm sorry, guys, state of mind was so disturbed that it was just too much. And he accidentally overdosed during this period. And that Jupiter was not able to help at all. Probably made things worse.
Nandita, we have another lecture in 10 minutes. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. But really quickly, Shani Venus wakes up Rahu and Shani because they're sitting in Venus's nakshatra of Purva Falguni. And even though he had passed, he gets an award. And so Shani's promise of this cluster here in the 8th house gave him the legacy. So another point I wanted to make, that cluster looks scary, but it's not. It's actually giving him the legacy. So, and he actually plays out this role. I mean, the stark difference, the role that he played as a Joker, you know, Mangal being activated there, the Rudra form that you find in Uttarbhadrapada. So thank you. I'm sorry I had to rush through this. Thank you very much.
I'm blown away. I'm actually speechless. I just love you guys. Thank you, Nandita. Fantastic.
Thank you.
This is why I say she is a teacher. the digestion, how you've digested. Oh my God, Nandita. I can't actually even comment on the two of you right now. I'm not kidding. Um, May you always shine more than me. I already see it happening.